there because they were kind of, it was interesting. But I let her know that we're on a direction, trying to get some more information from the staff, and then we can know if we want to do it. It's a generational thing. We talked about that and see where everyone's at, and then knowing that they are. I made it very clear to Tina as well that Layton is not going to shoulder this by ourselves. So that's the question now. We're not doing it because there's many other schools and cities who are involved, and they should be willing to help out in some way.
Yeah.
So that was communicated. The understanding is that this has to be a collaborative approach. That I don't think there's any idea that we're going to do it on our own. So just wanted to share that with you guys.
Well, good.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Anyone in your committee? All right, yeah, my slide's been pretty fast too, so. Well, let's go ahead and jump into our items here then. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 items that's all part of the Parks and Rec Department, so I'll turn time over to Mr. Dave Price and Joellen. We'll let you just kind of go through them.
Thank you, Mayor. Council. So this evening, as the mayor said, we have 4 items. The first 3 are the bid awards. All of these we've brought to you in the past for your review, but we did want to just touch bases with you today. So the 3 bid awards are the Welker Trailhead improvements, and that bid came in at $369,546. The Adams Park improvements, which came in at $303,737.10, and the Common Park improvements, which came in at $1,196,866 and some change. So, as you remember, the Welker Trailhead improvements is right up at where our existing trailhead is. The white area is the existing parking. The gray area shows the expansion for the parking. The restroom will go right here. And we'll show you some pictures of that. There are also some small amenities like a bike repair station, a water fountain, things like that. So this will be a beautiful improvement. All of the restrooms that we talk about today will have our new security system installed. And so they have a time block that is automatic. And so at a certain time we can say it's locked. And if you're in the restroom, you can still get out, but it doesn't let anybody else in. And then combined with that, we have a motion sensor inside the restroom. And so if someone is in the restroom after it's locked, we are notified and we can go out and see what's going on.
On the restrooms, your petitions on that, are they metal now?
There's 2 different kinds on this. This one is a precast, so they're concrete.
Oh.
And this is actually the restroom that's down at the park shop, or at the maintenance facility.
Oh, yeah.
And so this will be a good home for that. They're pretty indestructible.
Okay, because that was a problem for a while.
Yeah.
Trying to.
And so we'll go through these. This is the restroom. It's a pretty building. It's similar to the one that we have in Commons Park. It is, as we said, pretty indestructible. It's poured in place concrete, and so it's a strong structure. As you can see, the 2 bids that we received came in. One was quite a bit higher from WWC. We have a gap from the funding that we have available compared to what the bid was. We're shy $56,000. We are proposing to use surplus funds from 4 of our existing projects to cover that gap. And so these are projects that are completed, are well underway, and we see that we'll have some excess there. So that's how we propose to close the gap there. Any questions about that one?
I have one simple one.
Sure.
So on the south side then, back to your map, where you've got, yeah, that one there, where you've got access that's coming out the south side, that's pedestrian, right? It's not for people to drive?
It is for emergency vehicles, so it will be gated.
Mhm.
So you will have to have a key to get in through that gate.
Okay, yeah. That's-
But this is the primary spot where our EMS and fire access is trailed to go up and down that corridor. So it was important that we have an accessible site there.
Where do they access it now?
They come up right here.
Just kind of come off of it?
Yeah,
Yeah, there is a small curb cut and a gate up in this fence right now that they can jump, and then it's just a dirt road down to the trail.
If we had, this area was, we had lots of discussions about this area before. How has that been as far as photographers and permits and traffic and parking and the things that,
We've talked about.
yeah,
So the meadow itself, the main focus of what we've all done is to rebuild that meadow, and the meadow is developing much, much better. It's healthier, the grasses are longer and lusher. Part of that is the efforts we took, part of it is just we had a really good spring. And so the meadows are beautiful. We've still had a couple intrusions into the park where we have some stray photographers and other things, but it's much, much less than it has been. Very few compared to what we were having before.
parking issues, or at least people complaining about parking. I don't, I mean, it's a public street,
Yeah, with
up to where the red curbing is.
with the reduction of those big groups, the parking has gone down, but we still see them routinely in the mornings and evenings fill the parking lot, the existing parking lot, and move up the road, just with normal trail use. And so that's why we still feel it's important to move ahead with this.
so another question then, knowing that you've got the security in place for the locks, is it also an opportunity to maybe put some cameras up, should we need to?
Yeah. And again, the cameras, we are working to put those into a lot of our restrooms, but we felt that.
Well, I'm thinking on the exterior as well, for some of the mischief that supposedly was going on, and so we can curtail it going forward.
And does
We
this one have one?
We have conduit and set to put in for cameras, and so we're prepping ourselves to be able to have cameras mounted on some of the light poles and then also the restroom.
Okay, good.
And so our philosophy on that is it's better to deter the damage than to be able to catch the guy later. So
Well, and
why
that's my
we-
point, if you have cameras in place, that's a deterrent.
No, it'll be good.
Dave, to Clint's question, at our Lax Parks and Rec Commission meeting, a citizen came in and read a letter that she had written to the Parks and Rec Department about the ropes and the signs, and said, "Do not enter the meadow." Basically, can we ask, they felt like the rights were taken away from them. Dave handled it very well. And they showed updated pictures of the meadow and the regrowth. I think the plan is working really well to recreate the nature, the native landscape and that. So, and I think the citizen left pleased with the answer. So I think it's working well.
She did reach back out to us after the fact and was very grateful, not only for our answer, but for the opportunity to sit in on the meeting and express her concerns.
Just one last question. On the east side, up at the Gordon Townhouse, open house, what do we call it? Town Center Open House.
Open house.
I had some conversations about the underpass and when we feel like the trail's gonna all connect. Are we any closer? I mentioned that there are some property rights that some people just don't want the trail yet, and so where are we with that?
Yeah, we're moving ahead quickly. Maybe not as quickly as they want, but we do have the trail connections from the underpass. It's out, or almost out to bid. out to bid?
It's out to bid, right?
It's out to bid under UDOT's process. We hope to have those trail connections from the underpass to the nearby sidewalks done by this spring.
Will that come off of, what's that crossroad there? It'll just,
That frontage road.
Hobbs
Yeah,
Frontage Road and
Hobbs.
Valley View.
Okay, so it'll just come off that, so that you
Off
come to
that.
the sidewalk.
Yes,
But eventually, is it not gonna go down and around and connect with this trail?
it
We're not
does.
there yet.
We're not there, but we are working and we have conversations with the developers that have showed interest in that area. And they are working with us if the development moves forward like they intend, then we will get that trail connection. Is that accurate?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. That's why she's here, to make sure I'm not getting in the weeds.
Same.
Any, I don't remember when we had the residents come in, the discussion about the bathroom. Can you just speak to the concern that they had about it kind of being a place where, I guess, you can kind of create it and then it becomes a problem by having a spot there that's accessible? I don't know. I guess the question is whether, I'm saying if the bathroom is, put the bathroom in or not, but how do we maybe help them with those concerns?
So I've met with most all of the neighbors up there, and all of them, when they understand what our locking system is and that we have the motion sensors and the cameras, they are very pleased with the efforts we're taking. There's only one individual that, still just staunchly does not want that restroom there. The rest of them felt pretty good once they knew that we were addressing their concerns.
Thank you for speaking to me about that.
Yeah.
They're great people. It's just their neighborhood.
Yeah, sure.
So,
Yeah.
let's see. Andy Adams Park Improvements. This one is an exciting project. We're putting in a new pavilion. That existing pavilion is one of our oldest ones. And we're also adding new LED fixtures to the Tennyson pickleball. That is an example of what the pavilion will look like. And this is the funding. Again, all three of these projects came in over budget. And so we're bringing today what the bids were and how we propose to solve that problem. This one came in, the low bid was $85,000 above. We are proposing that we look at one of our this year's ramp projects, the Commons Park Pedestrian Lighting Project. And we would like to postpone that project and take those funds to cover the gap on this project and on the Commons Park one that we'll get to in just a sec. I took this idea to our ramp commission at the last meeting, and they did approve it, or they felt that it was a good response to what's happening. We don't intend to abandon this project, but we'll have to bring it back a year later. But that allows us to cover these two gaps and not have to go back to the general fund to ask for more money. So again, we feel that's a good response. It allows us to move forward with a couple of really important projects, and we will still be able to put the lighting in just a year later.
On your different topic, your Chapel Park improvement there, you're saying that you've got a surplus. But when's your anticipation of that being completed?
Joan can speak to that better than I can, but if you have been out there, it is really starting to take shape. You begin to see the magnitude of the change to that park and the neighborhood. It's really turning out quite beautiful.
Go ahead.
The reason why I'm asking is I do know that there's those folks from Delta that want to do the bench. And so they're curious how much longer they have to continue to fundraise work.
We can just put them in connection with me and we'll coordinate that.
Okay.
With your first question, I think we're about a month or so out. Yeah, about the end of this month, I think we should be close to being done.
Okay.
So this is Riley, he's
You've
with
got the guy
MSCI, so.
I'm with MSCI.
Okay, I was wondering where I'm going back there. Okay, is a citizen or what, but that's cool.
Both.
All right, that works even better.
They've been doing a great job on multiple projects for us, and we're excited to have them move forward with these.
Okay.
Are you putting targets in this
No. No.
No,
Arrows?
no, we moved past that one,
That's
I'm
like-
afraid, Dave.
That's like 50 years ago,
Not quite.
40 years ago. I'll call
That's
it what it
not
is.
that long ago.
All right.
You need to be careful, that's dating a lot of us here.
Well, I used to shoot there, so that's why I know.
Yeah, times are changing. Commons Park improvements, this is one that I'm personally very happy to see move forward. This is Wasatch Drive down here on the bottom, and then Constitution Circle loops around and comes back down this way. So the small parking lot that's across the street from the seminary building is about right here. And so we're enlarging that parking lot a little bit. We're adding a restroom right here that will be heated for our winter events.
Yeah, that's reflection.
Yeah, that's a good one.
That one in itself is like what everybody wants.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And then the pavilion, this is what the profile is. We have added these decorative rock columns at the base to give it, a little nicer visual appearance, but it also provides protection for the columns. And then inside it, Joel has done a great job working with the designer to put basically hockey rink style heating elements up in the
Oh,
ceiling.
good.
And so those can be turned on when we have events there. And it won't, it won't be as comfortable as this room, but it will take the chill off.
Yeah.
Is that where you're selling your stuff now?
This is a quick display of what the restroom will look like. It's very similar, almost exactly to Elson's, the pickleball restroom. And so, again, this will have heating elements in it.
The locking mechanisms and all that, right?
Same security system. And, we have now put that system in all of our restroom bathrooms except for Bayview, which we're still waiting on the Utopia connection. And it has worked wonderfully. Ed and his crew have been very helpful in that, and we're pleased with what it's doing.
Good.
Do you have red light, green light on?
And so on this one, as you can see from the bids, the low bid, we had a gap of $186,000. We are proposing again that money come from this year's grant project that we'll have to postpone. That will take care of that for us. Any questions about that one?
Oh, this is a multi-year budget, correct?
This funding?
Yeah.
Um,
Or is it just
Just 1 year.
just 1 year?
Yeah, last year's round.
It was last year's.
Mhm.
It wasn't a
No.
1, 2, or 2, 3
Mhm.
down the past.
Remind me of what that pedestrian lighting that you're taking, what that project, can you remind me what that one was?
Yeah, that was to put the city standard street light, but a little smaller version, a pedestrian version of that exact light around Constitution Circle. And so it would change the old style UW iron light poles to the more decorative and closer to.
Would they be inside or on the inside of the circle or the outside?
They'd be following the sidewalk internally, so as people are
Oh.
walking around in there, they'd have lighting alongside the sidewalk.
Oh.
It's very similar to phase 2 down here near the playground. You see that shepherd
Yeah.
hook lighting? That's the
Right.
same application over here.
Okay.
So, again, what's the size of the pavilion in the middle? I know it's
72-foot diameter,
70.
So it's a large.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it can hold,
350 people.
Perfect.
that's what I want to hear.
So do we have, I'm sure, power?
Yes,
Ample power?
yes.
So there's not like 2 plugs?
Yeah, we've got plugs almost on every other column, and 2 of them have the double gain outlets
Oh.
too. So it's well equipped with
Okay, because
electrical.
if you put music in there, I mean, you're gonna need, if you have a band.
Yeah, we've worked closely with Jay Clark to make sure that he
Oh,
has
okay.
all of his needs for that, so.
Oh, that's good, because yeah, Yeah, people get in there and then there's no telling what happens. You know, you start plugging in things.
If only we knew a local band that could open the.
I don't know one either.
So, that lighting project, was that related to safety at all?
It will improve the lighting in the park by almost a measure of 2. But there is currently lighting out there.
Yeah, okay.
And so it will make it better, but we are not dark now.
One last question. How many trees are gonna be impacted by these improvements?
There's probably, I don't have the exact number, but about 6 or 7 big ones. But we're planting twice as many as we take down.
What kind of tree though?
And the pavilion is located where it is partially to save as many trees as we can.
And they're elms.
All the,
The old ones that are we removing are elms.
yeah, I know that, yeah.
That
The
are
new
going in?
ones, the mix there, we have maples in there. We have some other large trees that will fill in.
But they're large trees?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you define large?
It's like 50, 60.
Okay. Okay. Because that's kind of what I was thinking, but I just wanted to make sure that was, yeah, well, good.
Okay. Layton Station Park, this is a temporary construction easement that we put into place so that we can protect our ability to do this trail. We've worked with UDOT and Winkle Rock Development to put this in place. And so we're asking for the agreement with Winkle Rock LLC. And this trail will connect the future section of Case Creek Trail along the adjacent right-of-way. And I'll show you a picture of that so it makes it more clear. This is for ingress and egress to a UDOT property. This is the only way we could build this. We can't access it off Gentile. And so this was necessary to save our ability to put the trail in. Of course, any damages that are caused by our construction will be taken care of by the city and repaired. And then the timing of the trail construction would be when the city prioritizes that trail and secures the sufficient funds. The Case Creek Trail corridor, as you know, comes down through this area and follows the creek. In this area, the connection will be from Gentile Street down to Main Street. Both of our crossings, intended crossings, will be at controlled intersections. And so we will use the pedestrian bridge here, come up to an intersection here, a lighted intersection that allows people to come across and then go through this corridor up to Gentile Street and then down to the controlled crossing right here. This also makes a nice interior trail for all of the people that are utilizing this Layton Station Apartments. As you can see here, that's where the trail is going to be built. The green section up to this point will be built as part of the development. Our connection is from the end of the trail up to Gentile Street. And we've worked with UDOT to see if we can get this accomplished, and they're willing to put it in, or they're willing to allow us to put it in, and we can access, or this trail can be accessible to ADA as well. And so it'll just loop once and come back. There are a couple of smaller retaining walls that help us do that.
What type of surface is it?
This is an asphalt trail.
An asphalt, okay.
Correct, Joel?
It's a mixture, so you've got the part that we'll be doing that's associated with the UDOT property is concrete and asphalt. So it's a mixture, but the rest of it that's green is asphalt.
Okay.
This shows the actual easement is within this dotted line that allows us to come in through their property and access and construct off this point.
Good, that's a good one.
Any questions?
The crossing, can you go back to the picture where the crossing is on Main Street?
Yeah. Sorry.
So there's no crossing there now,
There is not.
and that'll be a lighted, similar light to the trail, you push a button and
It'll be a fully vehicular lit signal. It'll also help, it'll be right there where vehicles can go into the park and ride area to get onto the front runner. So it'll be a lighted,
So that's a full street intersection.
Yes.
Right,
Okay.
So on the other side, on Main Street, that's where
That'll be the main entrance.
The-
to the station.
where we had the two buildings that you turn between to go back.
Oh, you're talking the gas station and that back
Well,
way?
no, it wasn't a gas station, it was
You mean the design,
the,
you're talking the
the
future?
design, yeah.
Oh.
Well, then what they show us, who showed us that?
For Layton Station Apartments,
No, it was in front of them. It was, because it was on the road.
that those two buildings, Dave, are shown right here. And there's a
Yeah.
building right here, a building right here, and then the road
Then the road is between.
straight across.
And that intersection is gonna be put in with the development of the Winkle property, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah, we have the funding for that this year, and
So it's all gonna go in.
the city has granted this in the third quarter, sent by the county, was secure as well, so.
Can we ask what's the update on the development of the Winkle? You know, they submitted it.
Yeah, they have submitted the plans,
Okay.
and in the process of doing it. I think they've been mostly.
You use the word temporary, that's just for the construction, right? The easement for the trail itself is in place,
it's
or is it
secured.
owned?
It's secured, and when the Winkle development for the Layton Station Apartments is recorded, their plat was a 20-foot wide easement that's for perpetuity.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions?
Okay, that's all 4 items.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Which we only have one more left for this work meeting.
All right,
Mr. Darren Curtis is gonna
I
take over
got
on
it.
this one.
I'm
right?
filling in for a fill-in.
Okay.
This has been discussed with the council before. This is a change in code. The current code allows for a tenant for single-family homes to sign up for utilities. So for water, for sewer, they're able to sign up. This is gonna change the code and require that the landowner is the only one that can actually sign up for those, for the water. Obviously, this is some issues that have come up. There's been, when there's been discrepancies, when tenants are moving in and out, signing, going in and turning off the water, turning it back on, has created a lot of work for the city, but as well the headache for the landlords. They call into the city, they want us to find the tenants and get them to pay.
Yeah.
So our current code allows us to bill the tenants, but as well to bill the landlords. So this would completely remove the tenants from the equation. It would put the landlords as the sole, that would be sole responsibility for the landlords. Any questions?
Does that allow the landlord to set the price?
Mm-hmm.
They would be able to contract with the tenants.
I'm sorry, yes, it's whatever the water bill is, so as I understand the prices, whatever the usage for that unit is, that one is.
Sorry.
Yeah, whatever the water bill is for that single family rental
Yeah.
is what has to be paid. Sure. They will look at
If I'm hearing your question right, that would leave the contract-wise between the tenant and the landlord.
And the landlord.
So that would be between them. If they wanted to do some kind of contract where the tenant was supposed to pay that amount, they could pay it to the landlord, or they are supposed to go to the city and pay that, but that would be between them. We wouldn't be a part of that.
What I'm asking is, does the landlord have free reign to charge for water what he wants to, not what we're charging?
You could, he can make it part of his rent.
Again, that'd be
That's
contract law between, that'd be
Okay,
lease.
I just
Yeah,
wondered if they have that ability.
that'd be contract between those two parties that we wouldn't be a part of.
That's
That's
the
good
concern
and
with
bad.
a lot of apartment people around town. On their,
Yeah.
the reason why their bills keep going up, they're trying to say it's because of the increase in water.
Well, sure.
When they ramp up their rent, they're trying to say
Okay.
it's us, but it's really just the landlord doing their thing.
We have a lot of this, we've heard some discussion about landlords, having difficulty tracking down tenants. Have there been instances or many instances of the tenants actually being harmed by the landlord not paying?
Well, yeah, that's a common issue. Actually, I was just talking to a temp today that talked about how many times, just as a temporary employee, she had received phone calls from the landlords saying, hey, they have not paid their bill, our tenants have not paid their bill. Can you reach out and try to find the tenants, which obviously is not feasible for us.
No, I think that's the
I'm
opposite.
looking at
though.
yours, what
He's
he's
saying
saying-
the opposite.
Yeah, if the landlord doesn't pay the bill, water gets shut off. Landlord still has water at their place, tenant no longer has water.
I just looked that up just recently because I was looking up what other states are doing with this. Because other states and other cities in different states, this is common. This is common that they've done these things. Essentially, what they call that is an eviction, in which there's laws that protect people that are staying in those houses. So if a landlord stops paying the bill or shuts off, I guess my question was, can they go in and shut off the water and those kind of things? And that essentially results in an eviction, which there's protections in the law there for the person sitting in the house.
Unless they can serve an eviction notice, and that's their way of taking action.
Yeah, so they would be protected. In order to do that, you have to properly evict the person.
Yeah.
I think she comes speak to that. She's supervisor that manages all this. Do we have any instances where it isn't the name of the landlord and the landlord's not paying, and so the tenants are complaining?
We have had some instances of landlords calling us up and say, I want to evict this tenant, so turn off their water. We tell them they have to go through the eviction process. We cannot be a means of eviction. We have had people who are misrepresent themselves and say, we have, two people living in a home, they get mad at each other. One comes in and says, I've turned off the water, it's in my name, and the other person is still living there. We have those kind of issues. The big issue with landlords and tenants is it is a lot of work for our office. We have some homes that are rolling over every couple months. We have a lot of landlords who feel like, we just had one today, so you're gonna go after this tenant, right? He owes $400. So, well, if we first turn the tenant over to collections, we turn the landlord and the tenant at the same time. We tell them it's gonna be your credit as well as their credit, and we won't move anyone else in as long as there's a balance owing. So if you wanna wait and go through the collection process, it's gonna hurt your credit. It's also gonna cost you 30% more. And, but we have the owner's financial guarantee up front that guarantees they'll pay it. But a lot of them have forgotten that they signed it, or misunderstand it, or, But we spend a lot of time talking to landlords who are like, why can't you find this, and why should I have to pay it? And, it's like.
Even after they've signed that initial waiver, huh? Wow, that's sad.
Definitely don't want the city, and we had our discussion, my opinion is I definitely don't want the city involved in what would be akin to property management for these landlords. I just hope that being a renter is a difficult thing already, and I was hoping we didn't have any instances of we're always going to have bad actors inside of the field, but little lady with single mom with 3 kids, and the landlord doesn't pay and the water turns off, and what's her recourse? It's just difficult. So because that's different than if it was in her name and she was paying it. So if there aren't any if there isn't a quantifiable a number of those, then I'm okay. I was just wanting to make sure that we were realizing that if it's in the landlord's name, then that means if it's not paid, that the tenant is the one that has to go through different means to get it because they don't have water, like you said.
Who turns off the water?
We do.
We
So we do.
Public Works, yeah.
Okay.
Public Works.
So someone else can't go turn it off?
Well, they
could.
They do.
They turn it back on, don't they?
Get in there and, they're not supposed to, they're locked, and that we have people that.
Yeah, I realize no matter what we say, people are gonna do what they wanna do, but at least we have the recourse that's our responsibility. So they can't just willy-nilly go turn it off
And we have had problems with that
No, I
because
understand.
the landlord will move out or a tenant will move out, we turn the water off, and then some new tenant moves in and the landlord turns it on for them. We don't find that out for months down the road. So that's been a problem also.
Yeah.
When we had this conversation a month or two ago, this is only homes, isn't it? Single units?
That's correct.
So this is already in place for duplexes, is that right?
Yes.
So,
Yeah, and it only captures the standalone single family, so any single family in a PRUD type of an HOA are already, they're treated as commercial. So it's a fairly small number of out of the total single family residents, but as Vicki mentioned, it's because of the significant turnover nature of it, it's about 25 to 30% of all the ons and offs and the work around that is from a very small niche. Does that make sense? There's about 1,500 units, as I recall.
this falls under.
It's this, and they generate about 30% of the workload out of, we have, what, 23,000 units in the city for utility billing, and about 1,500 of those are generating 30% of the demand of swim. That's just because of the nature of the.
So the way it will work is that really there's not a shut off. It just stays in the landlord's name, and if a tenant comes in, then it's up to the landlord to get I guess to move someone in, and because the billing is gonna stay the same,
Yeah,
so if no
billing
one's
is-
using it,
Yeah.
then that's when they build. There's no turn off, so it's not like it's all bad for the landlords. I mean, it should be pretty easy for them. It's just a little, they don't have to worry about, because I know I got an email about someone complaining about all on, turns off and turn on and turn off, and they don't want to pay those fees. And that, to me, that's just the cost of doing business if you're a landlord. It shouldn't be borne by the city, especially the city staff. So this would just be the water stays on, and then there's different tenants, then the landlord works with the tenants, and he or she pays the bill, whatever it is at the end of the month.
Yeah, if there's not you assume that if there's a tenant, water bill isn't separate from the utility bill, it's part of the utility bill, but if you don't have a tenant in there, your water bill should be minimum.
Yeah.
You know, the landlord's in there using it to clean and prepare for the next tenant, hopefully, but the landlord has control of that when they clean and when they don't clean. So to us, it seems a simpler way to go, and it avoids sending out a public works person to turn it on and turn it off twice, 2 different sets. At times, you can usually do it when the tenant leaves, we go in and lock it in at that point in time to make sure that that's assigned to the tenant, not to the landlord. And then it has to be turned on later, because the landlord's going to come in and say, well, we need to clean it, we need the water back on. So it probably will save them money over time if they'll just manage it. And we have one landlord that we talked about that has probably between 40 and 50 of these single-family rentals in the city. It's a very big, large business, and it's not necessarily the ones and twos, although they are concerns. It's these large ones that are running full-fledged big businesses. And as Vicki said, they want the city to be, and you said, to be their collection agency and to manage their business and to manage that relationship. And it's, the taxpayers of the city are paying for it. We don't do it anyplace else, and we think it makes a lot of sense. And as I mentioned to the mayor, that as you correct me, this is what Tracy said, Vicki, but as new people getting into this business have been calling and trying to set up utilities, we've been communicating to them that this is what it is now, but we're in the process of potentially changing it. Council's considered it, and we think that it will probably be changed. And most people have been understanding of that and supportive of it. So we'll definitely get some pushback from some of those that have been
their way.
Free ride. But I think it's, for most people coming in, it seems logical to do it.
I had a citizen that I had a conversation with, he's the landlord in this situation in the city. And I think this is the way he's already done it. It's in his name because he has 2 horses on the property. So he has to have water all the time. And it's just been in the contract that the tenant, it's his responsibility, his or her responsibility to go in and pay the bill when it's due. He'll pass it along to them. So, and that he thought it's a no-brainer, at least in his situation. And it makes it easier to get tenants in and out. without losing that connection. So good for the city too.
Two other questions. What is Rocky Mountain Power and Dominion Energy? What's their, did they do something similar? Or are they,
I don't think they do, I think,
It's your name.
it's in your name?
yeah.
And then to the point of Zach's example of the single mom with 3 kids and the water gets turned off by no fault of her own, I would imagine we would work with that situation, or, because what else would you do? And what recourse would they have?
What?
Like you said, it's like constructive easement.
That results in an eviction. That is an eviction.
Constructive easement.
Yes,
Eviction.
that is an eviction, so there's laws that protect them. You can't do that. And as Vicky said, we don't facilitate that. We can't facilitate someone to evict somebody. So we will not show.
How you turning it off?
Yeah, but what if the landlord
You
is
don't know, you don't.
behind and never paid?
That's what I'm saying.
That's what
That's
they're
what I'm
driving at, then how does the tenant, how is the tenant protected?
Well, I don't think they're, I mean, I'm obviously not a lawyer, but, which
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
by the way, but I'll go back to you. City manager, bad enough. But, just for the record, if that, Gary isn't here, so we gotta throw in that.
You gotta fill in properly.
Yeah.
But I would certainly imagine that if the landlord wasn't paying a bill and there was a tenant that was, you know, the water was going to be shut off, that we would work with them if they came in and said, I'll pay the bill, and then I'll work with the landlord to get it straightened out. You know, I don't think, as we said, we would want to use that as a club, but at the end of the day, that contractual relationship is between the tenant and the landlord. So they're
Still, one of the risks, I guess, you take, but
But it's-
I'm saying it's just it's gonna happen.
It's
so.
probably fewer than of those
Yeah,
versus where we're at
yeah, for
now,
sure. No, I
right?
just-
So,
We have one particular landlord who has several properties. He likes to keep it in the name of current tenant because he's avoiding our $50 fee. So he just leaves it in current tenant if it's empty, if it's full, whatever. But we have probably 4 or 5 current tenants a month shut off because the current tenant isn't paying, or he's even out of town and it's vacant. I've explained to him that he's losing money that way. The $50 fee is less than a monthly bill. But he wants to manage his properties with as much hands-off as possible. So, you know, we do have people that are current tenants that get shut off. One thing that we've changed in the last few years is we are now shutting off people on a monthly basis. So while it seems punitive to those people who, it actually makes it so they're paying only 1 bill is past due, not 2 bills are past due. There's, you know, they shouldn't be accruing a $400 bill unless there's a leak or something with the property. So it's a bill that's within their needs to pay at the end of the month.
and there's 10 days? Is that what it is? I'm trying to remember on the statement, they have so many days to come in and pay it, or it
Yeah,
shuts off, right?
we print it on the bottom of the bill,
Yeah,
and the date that the payment has to be made before shut off. We also send out a separate shut off letter for those people who are on that list. And we send out about 2,000 and we shut off about 250 a month.
that's a lot.
It is, and the sad thing is a lot of it's the same people over and over again, but they're not just tenants, they're also, you know, it's people,
That's how people pay it. Oh, I better do
Yeah.
it because it's gonna shut off.
yeah, so, you know.
Yeah, none of that is obviously by choice.
Right,
The city
yeah.
isn't delighted, it takes a tremendous amount of logistical effort from multiple departments to try to manage it. It's just, like you said, it's sometimes we were trying to help people help themselves. Before we had this we talked about a system where we were lenient such that they could end up with 2 or 3 or 4 months of billings, they were in arrears. And so for a lot of these folks, when they're looking at a $500 or $600, $700 bill, because it's went 4 or 5 months, it didn't help them any, right? Because there's no way they could come up with that money. They could struggle to come up with $100 or $50 or something. So we try to have a balance there where we're not being punitive. We're trying not to let it get out of hand. So they're completely desperate because there's no possible way they can work themselves out of that. But it's tough.
getting out of the property management as much as we can, letting them do their
Yeah.
own thing is definitely a
Smart.
better use of taxpayer funds, that's for sure.
Procedural
More
question, just one. I noticed this is a consent item and we're changing code. There's no requirement for public hearing or input on the code change.
It's my understanding that this is legislative decision because it's a code change. Wouldn't that be required for a code change?
I don't think so, but
We've had ordinances, I think we've had without public hearings.
All right.
yeah,
I'm still the new guy.
No,
that's a good question.
It's a good question, we wanna make sure we're doing it right.
The definition of what's required has to be in the form of an ordinance, but the definition of what is a public hearing is actually a state code definition. That they've identified there are certain types of decisions that have to be addressed through a public hearing. There's others that have to be addressed through an ordinance as opposed to a resolution. And we're actually adopting law, but not every law change is required by the state, good or bad, to be in the form of a public hearing, but.
Because we and I talked about that, there was like 2 or 3 meetings, I remember that, where we both had the conversation, yeah, do we need to do that? Because we both had, so I've had some other questions too. So yeah, maybe Darren can make sure about it. I'm not the lawyer here.
I will do.
I will verify that question.
Yeah,
I think we're okay tonight.
Okay.
Better be. It's on our agenda.
Yes, we're good.
We need to know.
Gary vetted this.
You got 40 minutes.
Yeah.
That is very true.
We'll tell Kim when she gets back, that she should have the program or something.
Nice try. Okay, any other questions on any of the items that we've covered here?
No, thanks for all your work on that. Thanks,
Yeah, Vicki, that's,
Hopefully
thanks
it's
for
good you.
enlightening us on how much you've been doing.
Yeah.
That's probably the bigger lesson here is.
You support this.
Well, years ago. Good try,
That's
good
an
try.
important part of this.
Yeah.
You're working it all the time.
Okay. There's not any other questions, then I can drop down to mayor's report. So that means I can open it up for, any discussion we might want to have on, any of our past Independence Day celebration, or you guys have any pros and cons that you want to discuss about it, or?
I actually had a talk to Tina about the concert, and she informed me that actually no, it wasn't Tina. I talked to Tina about it, but I talked to a lady who was performing in the concert, and she said that they had a bunch of songs that were patriotic, because my takeaway from that was, what are these Disney songs? What was that?
Oh.
Oh, are you talking about the Hometown Hero concert?
Yeah, what is
Okay,
that,
yeah.
all these, what is that, that's
Similar.
not patriotic at all?
Yeah.
Well, I went up and asked the lady who's the first chair of the violin, because she teaches my son.
So you knew.
She teaches my son cello, yeah. And I asked her, I said, what was that? And she said, well, we had a bunch of things planned, and the guy who was part of the group passed away on his way to the audition, or to practice. So they had to do something different. So they had to kind of go by the seat of their pants and find something new to do. So if you get any sort of discussions from the citizenry about why that concert maybe didn't seem like it was last year,
That is
they were
patriotic.
trying to do the best they could. And so just trying to give people grace and make sure that they tried the best they could put under those circumstances, which are terrible. So
We've had a couple in the past that have not been patriotic music.
As
Yeah.
patriotic, yeah.
I just
That
want,
one just should be all patriotic.
that one should be
Yeah.
100% patriotic. And that's why
That's how
I
it's built, and that's,
because I was looking at, when I didn't know the backstory, I was looking at some of the audience and I was thinking, I'm not sure this is what these people signed up for.
feedback as well.
We can bring that up at our next Parks and Rec Commission. I'm assuming we'll have a review of the whole Liberty Days day.
Yeah, and I was unaware of the passing away,
Yeah.
but we did know we had to make a change late in the game. And we reached out to OPA
And this is obviously what they could bring at that
Oh, yeah.
point.
Which is great.
Yeah. Well,
Performance
just,
was great.
yeah, just when you get the backstory, it makes more sense, you know, because they have the resident be like, no, I thought we were doing patriotic songs. and
But you
we
know,
don't
that
listen
would have been good to
undersea.
know, and we could have shared with the audience, they would have been much more
That was
receptive.
the last thing I was gonna say, is
It's-
it would have been nice to know that.
Yeah.
Because the people in the audience would have been totally understanding.
Sure.
I just don't want next year to be like, oh, we went to that Lake Liberty Days last year, that Hometown Heroes, and they sang Little Mermaid. But that had to do with the founding of the country. Whereas typically, what we want it to be is we want that just to be all patriotic.
Yeah.
So it was just, we just want to make, having more communication on that would have been nice.
Playing the devil's advocate on that, though, that could be, right, that could be portrayed as, oh, we're settling for these performers and we want that.
Right. I guess, I think there's a way you could probably say it where you say, because people are not expecting Little Mermaid.
Yep, sure.
So you say, hey, give Oprah the credit for coming up and doing that, right? And,
Yeah.
I mean,
Filling
we
it.
could taste, I would have looked on them much better knowing they filled it at the end. So,
So I've got one comment on this, because you're bringing up that concert as well. The part that the feedback I got, and the part that everybody loved the most, is at the end, when you're acknowledging the different branches of service.
the best part,
That is the best part, and what I'd like to maybe see, I mean, this is just, you guys can take it, roll with it or not, is on the screen, since we have the screen there, maybe put the words to that particular song so that people can sing it out to them and let them join in. I think that would just really enhance it and kind of just take it to that next level.
it's a good
I think, sorry,
space
On,
force.
on that point,
Just
the last 2 years, the program has said that's the postlude.
yeah.
So I would say take that out and make it
Make
more
it part of the
ending,
show.
Yeah.
the final song. Because Don has said that, please stay in your seats for the postlude as we recognize the branch of the government.
the thing that I see, the 4th of July is changing. And I don't know why, I have no idea exactly why. But the patriotic theme is dying. And candy and fireworks is exploded, excuse the pun. And so any opportunity that we have to create patriotism, I think is something we need to look at and to capture it. I mean, so when you walk away from whatever event or whatever, and it's not like everything can be or has to be, but, you know, that at least like the Voices of Liberty, it's named Voices of Liberty. And, you know, and so I don't think it's anybody doing anything wrong. It's just we're kind of losing our concentration a little bit, and to move that, you know, to make that important, not, you know, I mean, it's 4th of July. It's not not just a holiday.
Yeah. There's a reason for that celebration,
Yeah,
which,
and if we focus as much as we can on that, there's a lot of things that we can't, so.
well, I think it's a great concert, and I mean, it's one of the highlights of the year to be able to acknowledge our hometown heroes and know that it's their neighbors that are really acknowledging them, and that we get to extend that and celebrate their goodwill and what they've done for the community. But, you know, along those lines, Dave, I mean, obviously Layton's been very good about acknowledging Independence Day, and I think that we want to continue that, which is hence why we have the Freedom Plaza that we'll be focusing
I
on
mean,
next.
there's a lot of things. I think we just need to concentrate a little more. I mean, that doesn't mean change the world. It just means concentrate a little more and use whatever avenue we can to promote patriotism on that day. You know, and not that we gotta do everything, because a lot of things don't fit in that nature. And one thing I will say, when we started Hometown Heroes, I mean, it was nice, you know, I mean, I was part of the organization that started it. And I thought, well, this will be nice for our hometown, blah, blah, blah. And then I read an obituary of a hometown hero. And that was included.
That was, I know what you're talking about.
And that's when I thought, wow, this is more than handing out a sign in the yard that I was kind of looking at. And like you say, we have the program. And for the hometown hero, it's a very special moment.
It is.
And I don't want to say it's patriotic, but in a sense it is. It's a feeling from inside about the city and the town and the people that make it. So, yeah, it changed my mind totally from what I thought before. You know, so, yeah, if we use any opportunity we can to promote patriotism, I think that's a good way to go. And I think we're doing an okay job. We just need to, there's just little things that we need to do.
It had to be one of the bigger Voices of Liberty concerts. Seems like attendance was huge.
Attendance was wonderful.
The volunteers were counting people as they came in. They thought we were right around 1,200 people.
Yeah, you're not right. Yeah.
That's
So
good. That's very good.
that's awesome, and that's a kickoff to the Liberty Day celebration. I had one, and I know this conversation's been had, moving the orchestra to that night from the 4th of July. The attendance was down quite a bit, I thought, in the amphitheater on the 4th. At least the grass was wide open from years past.
Yeah.
I think last year was, last year filled in pretty big.
Last year was a little, it was fuller last year. This year was down a little bit from last year, but when we ended the orchestra, we had saw the numbers of attendance go much lower than even what we saw this year.
When we moved the orchestra to Sunday night, the Sunday before. Yeah, so, I don't know, I just had the conversation with a few people, how do we get more people here on the 4th? And I thought the concert was amazing. Wildwood was great. So a lot of people missed out, but I don't know what the answer is to get more people there. But maybe it's people don't want to move real quick to watch the fireworks somewhere else.
They always, we didn't used to. We used to fire the cannons and that started the fireworks. And people were inside listening to the War of 1812, I don't know what it's called, but anyway. Yeah. And so, I don't know that way. The one thing, and when it was first presented, to bring in another band or whatever, I really didn't have much feeling thinking it would change. But when I sat out and watched the fireworks and I heard the music, it was kind of a mix, patriotic, real popular songs, you know, to the thing. And I remember thinking back to like the cannons. I mean, it was a patriotic big, and then everything started, and then the music that was played back then was kind of like the same. I mean, it was patriotic, but there was some other stuff too. And that, but like I said, I think we just need to concentrate on where we can be patriotic. And the concert on the, I mean, I don't want to sit here and say I know everything, because I don't. But, you know, but to look for opportunities to.
And we can have that conversation with the Parks and Rec Commission as well. Jay tried that. He played the 1812 overture right at about 9:58.
All day.
But then the fireworks were about 7, 8 minutes later.
Yeah.
Didn't work out.
We had and it's not gonna happen for a while, but I think and I know the staff, you're all busy. We call this Liberty Days. We had an opportunity for Monday to do something as a community in the evening, just because of how the calendar lines up.
Right.
We're all excited on Sunday, like, we'll see you in a couple of days. Or we could have, the amphitheater could have had a movie or something like we do on Fridays with the Davis Arts Council, just in the future. Since we always start on Sunday
Yeah.
with that concert, it's not gonna show up for a few years. when it shows up again, but just a thought.
No, like I said, use every opportunity, and then, yeah,
Mhm.
you know, and it's just a matter of thinking about it, and then it, you know, takes care.
Okay. Any other comments or whatever?
I have a comment, but not on the parade, or not on the 4th. You want me to wait?
What did you think of the popsicle? You guys put a lot of effort into that.
And I will say thank you, Tyson. Tyson was
Yeah.
big help on that.
Dan did a lot too.
And his dad. We kind of strategized and even kind of contemplating what size of foam,
He's the engineer.
big foam, little foam, 2-inch, half-inch, you know. So I thought the makeshift coolers worked.
Glad they were frozen.
Yeah, they worked perfectly as far as that went. It's unfortunate we ran out, and I even kind of upped the game a little bit by 2,000 from what we thought, and it was, we still didn't have enough.
You couldn't have prevented that with the help that you had,
No.
because
Well,
those kids were just handing out bags and bags full.
They were giving bags
Oh,
full
yeah.
of them.
Which, and I mean, we were on Fort Lane.
That makes sense why we went.
We were on Fort Lane right in front of the fire station, and the kid that was walking backwards the whole time. That guy.
Yeah,
I'm like, dude, you're calves anyway. But he's like, oh, we're in the final stretch here, right? And I'm like, no, we're halfway through. So
you're not halfway.
there was this understanding that
Yeah.
they were just
Because
going. And
it's,
so, I mean, I think they were just handing out bags early to families, to every adult got one in that first section. And I just think that with all the kids helping, if that's, because before it was mostly it was us that were handing them out, where we didn't really hand out much.
no,
At all. It was the kids who were helping out and had a good time. But what it meant is that we were gonna run out. So
well, it's just, like I say, now we know we
Yeah.
need to
it's just,
express that, yeah.
it was,
Because the majority of the parade is from
right.
halfway on Wasatch
Yeah.
down.
Because I said, he's like, oh, there's so many people. I'm like, you wait for the rest to turn.
Yeah,
Where
make the turn, you see the people.
we'll see it. But
well, that's good to
It is
know,
awesome.
because, I mean, we did have a briefing with them, but we
Yeah,
should have
it's-
probably stressed that, and then
They
we
were
couldn't
just,
stress that
they were just excited.
Yeah,
There
they're
was,
just
I mean,
kids.
there was some of those kids were funny. I mean, he was one football player was whooping up the crowd every time. I was laughing the whole time I was running because he's like, oh, you want popsicles? And the whole crowd. It was much better than me just handing it to the kid.
Okay, that's good to know.
But yeah, it wasn't a matter of you guys doing anything. It was just they'd never done that route before. They didn't
Well, they've
know what to
never done
expect.
it, yeah, and most people, kid-wise.
I just felt bad when we were walking down that last
Yeah.
section and we didn't have any, even for the kids.
Right,
Didn't you hide?
that was hard.
Yeah, it was the walk of shame.
Was that you walking on the
Yeah, it was a
sidewalk?
walk of shame.
Thanks, Dave,
Yeah.
for the
Yeah.
pallet jacks and coordinating the restock, switching up to the new pallets worked out pretty well. Thanks.
We tried to stay on side. It was like soccer. We couldn't, go ahead.
Yeah, those two Weaver State football players pushing a two. That was fun.
Your walkers
Yeah.
were on the sides,
Yeah.
they worked out well.
Yeah.
I could only see, a little bit in the front, a little bit in the back, I didn't see the whole parade, but what I saw was, it was pretty good. Of course, it was a beginning, it may deteriorate, but I thought that was a good idea, and it did help. You're never gonna solve the problems, but it helped greatly from what it was, and I thought that was a good job.
And I think it's important to acknowledge that, those efforts helped, but it was also our police.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they were-
back and
they were
forth,
very
up and
good.
down the route. And
They
so
were
that
very
was,
good.
that was
Yeah,
really
that's true.
wonderful.
Yeah,
So-
on their bikes.
Just one question, I heard that there was a big gap, obviously, we don't see it because we were in the back. What did you find out what caused that gap, or?
And we did, and we talked with the entry. As they left, they were allowing their kids and participants to come back to the float to refill their little bags of stuff. And so my staff contacted them twice within the first block or two and told them they had to stop that and they had to keep up. They failed to do that, so we had the police also approach them and explain to them that, you know, they had to do it the way we had asked. They, again, failed to follow the guidance of the police force. And so we will be reaching out with them and explaining why, you know, that they will not be invited back next year. They just simply failed to follow our directions and the police. And they simply didn't want to keep up. They just went at their own pace. And that put quite a gap there.
Yeah.
There was a comment about a loose trailer. Did you see anything about that?
We did, and that was behind the first entry that caused, you know, some problems. We did go out and address that, and we actually had the police come out and look at the issue as well. They determined that it was safe to continue, and so we allowed them to do so. The individual that posted it on Facebook didn't feel like we had taken enough of an effort. But
No. I just think for
Well, overall, I'd say kudos. I thought the day went very well. There's a lot to coordinate, and
you brought in cloud cover. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thanks.
but the cleanup even afterwards was just like poof. I mean, you guys were right on top of it, so I think, you know, you need to pass that on to your staff and everybody who helped that way.
yeah, good group
Yeah.
of people.
Okay. Anything else, you guys? Otherwise, we can,
All right.
we can give ourselves.
Your Honor.
No, wait a
Your
minute.
Honor. I have the right. I'm in court all day.
That's a first. That is a first.
Moved real smoothly.
Yes.
We've never had this much.
Yeah, we
Oh,
might
there you
keep you around, Derek.
I knew I was going to do that. I have direction. I apologize. I've been living in land use for a while and sucking in as much information from Gary as possible. So by ordinance, if a land use ordinance or a code changes, there needs to be a public hearing. But not in this issue. This can be passed as a consent item. I apologize for that.
Okay, that's good clarification. You know now.
Comes in.
Thanks.
There you go. That's it.
Okay, all right.
And
Okay. Yes, Dave, go ahead.
we had a test on the Swan Lake, no, Swift Creek. Test the water,
Okay.
to see the leaks. Smoke.
Smoke in there.
Yeah. So if we could know how many people or who people or what people, if there was leaks.
Are you talking about the sewer test?
When the sewer, it's,
Flooding in school.
The flooding.
Field
Field
trip.
Okay,
Yeah, we have that, and there ended up being, in the homes that were affected, there were 2 homes in the area that had connections, downspout connections off the roof drains that were contributed, they weren't quite as many as we thought. There was several that had, which we're working to put a ordinance in place or a direction in the concerning standards to say it's not specifically addressed now, but we're going to put that in there to make sure that when the homes are constructed, that doesn't mean people won't do it. But there's a statement at the front, you can't do that. So the other thing that was a challenge, which isn't illegal either, but is that in a lot of cases, some of the homes out there, just the way they're constructed, there's a concentration of collection points for their groundwater, for example, in their window wells, some of those kinds of things. And so a lot of that water is being artificially caught there and is draining into the land drain system. And so between the soil saturation, because of all the rain, and you had that late heavy snowstorm that came off pretty quick. The largest issue is just capacity. Just you have a series of events that all kind of perfect storm, if you will, that maxed out the system. So there wasn't any failures in the system, per se. There wasn't any.
There wasn't a section that was left out. I know there was talk about that. But, well, there was a connection that didn't get made.
No, that's not true. We
I
went
wouldn't
in.
imagine that after being in there for 12, 14 years.
We went in and made,
Yeah.
in the
Connection.
urgency of the situation, we created a new connection to take it off one street where there was flooding and move it to a different location or cause it to be spread.
Spread
But
it
that
out.
wasn't part of the original design. That was something that's been created, but,
And that solved it.
yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't wanna say solved it, but it took, after that, they didn't have a problem,
Yeah.
so.
Okay.
That's good.
All right,
Yeah.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I,
All right.
adjourn, please.
Okay, our work meeting is now closed, and we'll give ourselves about, I don't know,
More time than
10 minutes to go to do your personal stuff, and then we'll meet in the other room at 7 and start on time. Okay, thanks.
I think I'll run down to the store.
Try me another.
It's on its way.
Council meeting this evening, July 6th. Our start time is 7 p.m. I hope you all had a wonderful holiday, Independence Day. But as customary with our meetings, we like to start with a prayer and a pledge, and each month a different council member or myself takes over. And so I'm actually going to turn the time over to Councilmember Morris.
I'll offer an invocation, and then I'll invite those in the room to stand, and we'll repeat the Pledge of Allegiance. Our Father in heaven, we come before thee this evening grateful for the opportunity that we have as a city to gather as a governing body and staff. We're grateful for the residents of this city. We're grateful for those who serve in our city, for our police, fire, EMS, and our public works, parks and rec, and all those who help to make our lives better and to keep us safe. We ask that thou would please be with us this evening as we deliberate the agenda, and we pray for wisdom as we make decisions on behalf of the residents here. Again, we're grateful for the water that we've received. It's been a blessing for all of us, and we leave these things with thee and do so in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
If you please rise, and we'll repeat the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Councilmember Morris. I'd like to excuse Councilmember Smith Edmondson tonight. And we will go ahead and proceed with our meeting. However, I also want to acknowledge that we have one of our legal staff here, a new one, Mr. Darren. What's your last name?
Curtis.
Curtis, that's right. I knew that, but I drew a blank. So anyway, Darren, welcome tonight. So, council, we have several minutes to adopt. So if anyone would, first off, let me ask, is there any corrections to be made to any of them listed here? If not, then I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the minutes. And if you could, just go ahead and state the date and what minutes they're for.
Madam Mayor, I move that we approve the minutes of Layton City Council work meeting on March 16th, 2023, the Layton City Council meeting on March 16th, 2023, the minutes of the Layton City Council meeting on April 6th, 2023, and the minutes of the Layton City Council meeting on May 18th, 2023.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and second that we adopt the minutes as read. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. We'll move on to our municipal event announcements. So, council, does anybody have any?
Before announcements, I just want to say thanks to all the citizens, residents that came out to the Liberty Days celebrations, and give a huge thanks to the city staff, police, fire, Parks and Rec, all the city employees that were involved. Really, the amount of planning that goes in is unbelievable. A year worth of planning. Beyond that, I heard conversations of next year already before the 4th even happened. So just talking about the next year. And I spoke to a police officer at the beginning, asked how many of his cohorts had the day off today. He said 0. So all hands on deck. So a huge thanks to our public safety officers. Volunteers, we had the Layton High football team that put a lot of work in with the parade, the youth council, just a lot of people that really put a lot of effort in.
Layton High track team too.
Layton High track team helped as well. Thank you, Mayor. So just as always, I say it over and over, it's the best time of year to be in Layton, and it was proved that case again. So thank you all. As far as future announcements, starting Friday, July 14th, a week from this Friday, we'll start Layton Fest in the Commons Park. Constitution Circle area. There'll be food trucks, farmers, events, entertainers. I have to mention farmers. But great entertainment. Just bring very family friendly. Come out and have a fun evening. That'll carry on every Friday through August 25th. So starting, what is the start time? 5 p.m. Thank you. And then Pioneer Day coming up later this month on the 24th. A lot of activities that day starting 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Layton Heritage Museum. There'll be the Pioneer Day Jubilee. Food truck rally will start at 5 p.m. Constitution Circle and go to 11:45. 7 to 9 p.m., one of the most popular concerts throughout the year, the Riders in the Sky, will happen at the amphitheater, the Kenley Amphitheater here. And then 10 p.m., another big event for the city, the Electric Light Parade, leading to the party zone at the Layton Commons Park. So a lot going on. We'll have more information about that, and you can find more info at laytoncity.org. So thank you.
Okay, very good. Okay, if there's no other announcements, I also want to acknowledge that we had the airmen help us out at the parade as well, which I thought was great, and I want to acknowledge their participation. But we actually have a young gentleman here in our city that is, I guess, quite the golf champion. He's a graduate. Well, he attends Layton High School, and his name is David Lecce. Hopefully, is that close? I don't know, Lecce. Anyway, yeah, amateur golfer. Excuse me, I'm tongue-tied tonight. But he's made it quite a ways in the championship rounds here in Salt Lake Country Club. So I just want to give a shout out to him and say kudos, good job. Also, I know that there's just one other event that's happening. There's a lot of stuff going on in Layton, and I really want to encourage people to look at our online calendar. And certainly if you have stuff that you want to advertise, you're more than welcome to fill out the forms and send it in so that we can get it publicized on our calendar of events. So I know that Salt Air Farm has their annual charity benefit horse show that they'll be doing this weekend as well. So there's those type of things that happen throughout the city that we'd like to kind of help promote. So with that, does anybody else have any other public announcements? Okay, we'll go ahead and move on down to our citizens' comment portion of our meeting. If there's anyone in the audience that wishes to address the council, you're more than welcome to come up to the mic and state your name and address for the record and let us know what you're thinking. Okay, seeing that there's none, let's go ahead and move on to our consent items, I should say. We have 5 of them tonight, and we have our first, by the way, all of these items we can act upon in one single motion as a governing body, so we're going to go ahead and hear all 5 of them before we take any action on them. And what we'd like to do is start out with item number A, which is the collections of the delinquent water fees. And Darren Curtis is going to present that to us.
Thank you, Mayor. I won't call you Your Honor. Mayor, Council, I appreciate you. This is Ordinance 2316. We're asking the Council to adopt this. This can be adopted by ordinance as a consent item. This is a change in the code here in Layton City. So the code currently allows tenants and landlords to sign up for utilities here with Layton City. And it allows the city to collect from the tenant as well from the landlord to collect any kind of, if there's discrepancy in payment for the fees or for paying the utility bills. This is being changed because and specifically, this is in regards to single-family homes. That's important to point this out. This is for single-family homes, right? And in Layton City, we have 1,489 single-family homes that are for rent, that are rentals right now. So what this does is it creates a lot of work for the city because tenants, where there is constant movement and tenants going in and renting and leaving and coming in and out, it creates a lot of work for the city, for the employees going in and turning off the water, turning it back on, switching accounts from one tenant to the other to landlords. It creates a lot of work, as well as it causes a lot of headache where if there's discrepancies in payment for paying the utility bills, that the landlords are calling the city and requesting the city to collect those payments from the tenants, where our city code allows us to collect it from the tenants as well from landlords. So what this does is it takes the tenants completely out of the code. So in order to sign up for utilities, it has to be the landowner. The landowner has to sign up for the utilities, and it doesn't involve the tenants anymore. Now, that doesn't mean that there can't be any contracts between the landlords and the tenants, and we'd expect that that would be the case. They still have the ability to contract. The landlords will have the ability to contract with the tenants and have them pay the bill, but that would be completely in contract between the tenants and the landlords, and we would be out of it completely. So it would be lots less work for the city employees to be involved with that, and a lots less headache in dealing with the landlords and that negotiations and contract between the two parties.
Okay, very good. Well presented. Any questions, council? Okay, thank you very much. Okay, we have 4 other items that are on our agenda items, all of which are part of the Parks and Rec Department. So we're going to have Mr. Dave Price come up and present those in order.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This evening we have 3 bid awards to review with you. The first one is Resolution 2334. This resolution, if passed, will authorize the execution of an agreement between Layton City and Merrill Sheriff Construction Incorporated for the Welker Trailhead Improvements, Parks Project 2202, located at 2700 North, 2125 East. This project includes the installation of a CXT restroom facility, drinking fountains, parking lot expansion, concrete pathways, benches, bike racks, bike stand repair, and landscape improvements. The restroom is also fitted with our security system that locks the restrooms automatically in the evening and has motion sensors inside to let us know if someone is there when they shouldn't be. It is also fitted for security cameras for the area. On July 7th, 2023, 2 bids were received, with MSCI submitting the lowest responsible bid in the amount of $369,546.50. The staff recommends that the council adopt Resolution 2334, authorizing the city manager to conduct negotiations and execute an agreement between Layton City and MSCI for the construction of the Welker Trailhead improvements. The gap between our funded amount and the bid amount will be covered with surplus money from 4 of our existing projects. Any questions about that?
I think a date correction there. You said July 7th, 2023, you received the bids.
June 7th.
June. Okay.
June 7th, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Any
questions, council?
Madam Mayor, no questions, but just want to say thanks, Dave, for you and your team in discussing this project with those residents who live up there. It's their backyard, and it's taxpayer money for the whole city, but it's being installed right where they live. So I appreciate you explaining to them kind of the purpose of the bathroom and the expansion of the parking lot and the whole purpose of why we're trying to make improvements over there for the good of the city. And just thanks to you and your staff for doing that.
Well, as we talked before, a wonderful group of neighbors, and they've been interested and supportive, but they are concerned, and we respect that. The second one is Resolution 2335, which authorizes the execution of agreement between Layton City and Merrill Sheriff Construction Incorporated for the Andy Adams Park Improvements, Parks Project 2204, located at 1713 East, 1000 North. The project includes the demolition of an existing pavilion in preparation for the installation of a new pavilion It also includes Musco lighting at the existing tennis and pickleball courts, concrete pathways, a new concrete staircase, irrigation, landscape improvements, and the relocation of existing drinking fountain. On May 31st of 2023, 2 bids were received, with MSCI submitting the lowest responsible bid in the amount of $303,737.10. As you can see, there is a gap on this one as well. We propose that we fill that gap, or that lack of existing funding, by postponing the Commons Park pedestrian lighting project, which was awarded in this year's ramp projects. We have talked with the ramp commission about this proposal, and they support it. They understand that this lighting project will be just put back 1 year. It's not that we're vacating this, it's just that we're using this money to take care of these 2 very important projects, and then we'll come back and resubmit for the ramp funds. That allows us to have the funding necessary to do this project currently. Any questions?
Questions?
Yeah, Mayor, thank you. Dave, just from the last project and this one, the surplus of the other projects that we're proposing that we use to fill in the gap, at what point, so let's say we're not doing this and there's surplus, at what point does that surplus become fund balance? Because if the project's already done, is there a certain time frame?
At the closing of the project, when we finalize that project, we work with finance to make sure that any surplus money that is not reallocated will be just turned back to the city and put back into the fund balance. And that's typically what happens. So these projects will all finish up this fall. And without this action today, that money would just go right back into the fund balance. By approving this, we're moving those leftover amounts of money to this project.
Good question. Okay, any others?
Yeah, one just I guess I'm having walk me through your decision making with that pedestrian lighting project, and why you've decided to put that one on the back burner as opposed to this Andy Adams Park improvements. And the reason I ask that is that last year we had a terrible accident out here when the lights, it was a rainy day and all that. But I'm just curious if I don't want to be seen as putting our funds in a park improvement when we potentially have a safety issue that's not an issue that I think is dire, but it's something that we obviously have allocated funds for to put into the budget. And so is of equal importance. And so my question is, maybe talk me through your assessment of why you chose to move Andy Adams Park improvements on a hierarchy above the pedestrian lighting project.
No, that's a great question. Thank you. As we looked at these projects, we had to prioritize the need and the risk of all these things. And the pavilion at Andy Adams is in dire needs of replacement. We have worked over the years to kind of keep it in a safe, usable condition, but it's just getting to the point that we could not do that anymore. We also looked at the existing lighting that is in Constitution Circle right now, and there are streetlights through that area that provide we believe, a baseline safe lighting. We propose to bring this project back next year because it will enhance the area. It will increase the safety and the lighting, but we did not feel that it was a current danger.
Well, and this lighting project is on the sidewalk, not on the streets as well, correct?
It is. The new light fixtures There will be more of them, and they will be closer together. But it will still provide lighting for the interior of the circle as well as street side.
Okay. Any other questions?
It's been a few years since we had a family gathering at Andy Adams. I don't recall I know the playground is not part of this. How old is the playground since its last update, and what's the lifespan of that?
The playground is, plus or minus a couple years, about 18 years old. It was one of the first ones I put in when I came here. It is in good shape, but they just begin to age out. And so when we looked at this area, we have moved through this in stages. First, we took care of some courts that were in a very dilapidated state. And then this time we took care of the pavilion and increased the lighting for those courts. And we will come back with recommendations for other areas of this park. This park is important to a large part of our neighborhoods up there. And we are not only looking at the playground, but we're looking at how to refurbish the baseball fields that are up there. Right now, they're not used to their full potential. So we're working with Recreation and our parks planner, our landscape architect, to make sure that we can bring those up. It's much cheaper and more efficient to revitalize an existing park. And so we'll come back with you or talk with you in the future about how to do that.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, I think we're good on that.
Thank you. Resolution 2336 authorizes the execution of an agreement between Layton City and Merrill Sheriff Construction Incorporated for the Commons Park Improvements Project, Parks Project 2205, located at 437 North Wasatch Drive. The project includes the installation of a new pavilion, there we go, restroom facilities, parking lot, concrete pathways, irrigation, landscape improvements, and the relocation of an existing drinking fountain and streetlights. On June 7th, 2023, 2 bids were received, with MSCI submitting the lowest responsible bid in the amount of $1,196,866.94. This project will make a huge difference to our park out there. With the removal of the old pavilion that was where the Vietnam Wall is now, that took away the ability to hold large groups. This new pavilion will seat 300 to 350 people. Both the restrooms and the pavilion have heat so that we can utilize these facilities throughout the winter for a lot of our winter activities. And so we think this will be a beautiful and very functional improvement to the park. The staff recommends the council adopt Resolution 2336, authorizing the city manager to conduct negotiations and execute an agreement between Layton City and MSCI for the construction of the Commons Park improvements. Any questions on this one?
I have one quick one that I forgot to answer earlier or ask.
Oh, please.
Knowing that this is a large pavilion and that it gives a great opportunity for our residents to gather, will this be one that they can reserve as well?
It will, not only for the summer, but as you may remember, that was one of our most sought after commodities, was the winter reservation of the old pavilion. And so this will facilitate that again for those Christmas parties.
Okay, thank you. Okay, anyone else?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Excuse me, Dave, you've been doing this a long time. Your thoughts on why these bids are like such a difference? I mean, it seems like that's crazy amount of money, this WWC, whoever that is.
No, I don't know exactly why. I believe that the environment we're in right now, there is just so much work out there available, that number one, we're getting a limited pool of contractors that are even able to bid on it because of their current workload. Typically, we would have 5 to 7 contractors bid on this type of a project. As you can see, we pre-approved on all of these projects 3 contractors. 2 of them came in with bids. It just demonstrates that there is so much work out there. And then the difference in cost, that's solely individual to the contractors. If they are completely filled on their schedule and they're still bidding for another job, they may ask for a premium price, knowing that if they get it, it's going to stretch their company and they want to make sure that it's profitable.
The MCSI, they're doing a great job at Chapel Park and up at Adams Canyon,
Yes.
the trailhead there. Mm-hmm. Is there a concern, since you've got 3 more projects here, of not having enough workers to take care of all of these projects, or we're going to stagger them out so that you've got enough people to do them? So it's just one company.
We believe, and as we've talked with our contractor, they are very eager to get started on these projects. In fact, they've been waiting for us to move forward so that they can get started. They have demonstrated an ability to take these projects on, and we've worked with them in the past where we've had multiple projects. We feel very comfortable working with MSCI.
Thank you.
You built a pavilion. Does this cover tables? Or is that something that?
It does not, it's not in the contract, but we have accounted for that in our budget.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
there's a ramp request already on that was approved.
Well, thank you.
Sorry.
Yeah, you signed them today. Okay. Yeah, I didn't understand what an appurtenance was. Just figuring, hey, that's a Garside 5-syllable word. Anyway, thanks.
That's all the little bits and pieces that come with the irrigation system.
Okay, Councilman.
Just question about the timing. This is a big project in the center of the city, impact to other activities in the city. Just wondering what that timing would be.
Joellen, can you help with that? Please come up. Joellen is our landscape architect and park planner for our department.
Yeah.
So we're ready to have them start very soon with our kickoff meeting once we get through the contracts, especially at Commons. We've been working very closely with our recreation department on orchestrating, making sure that any construction that we have on that south end does not impede on the fest activities or other events that we have continuing through the rest of this summer. So it should work pretty seamless. We'll be all right, and just coordinate back and forth with activities and making sure we're in sync with each other.
Do you anticipate this being completed by the October, November timeframe for the lights? Because I know that our staff starts setting them up early.
We hope so. We'll just have to see how it goes.
Got the head nod.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, these are exciting bits here. You have one more, though.
The last one that we have is for a temporary construction easement agreement. Layton City Parks and Recreation, Trails, Open Space, and Cultural Facilities Master Plan includes the Case Creek Trail, a proposed trail that is intended to connect from the northeast to the southwest corners of the city. A portion of this Case Creek Trail is included in the Winkle Rock LLC proposed development, Layton Station's apartment, located at 189 South Main Street. The section of the trail travels along the northern property boundary of their proposed development from Main Street to just short of Gentile Street. A small section of the trail's proposed alignment is located outside of the boundaries of their proposed development, which is which we desire to connect the trail to Gentile Street. And that property is on the Utah Department of Transportation's property. UDOT is willing to allow the trail to travel through their right-of-way to connect to Gentile Street. Resolution 2337 is to authorize the execution of a temporary construction easement agreement between Layton City and Winkle Rock LLC for the permitted access through their development to construct the future section of Case Creek Trail on the adjacent UDOT right-of-way. Specifically, the intended easement property would be used by the city for the sole purpose of ingress and egress to the UDOT property to perform the intended surface activities thereupon, including temporary staging and construction of the future trail connection. Any potential damage while traveling through the property would be repaired as part of the construction of the trail connection. The timing of the construction of the trail would be when the city has prioritized and secured sufficient funds. This is simply to protect our future interests. We're not prepared to do it right now, but when everything falls in line, we want to make sure that we have the ability to do so. The staff recommends the council adopt Resolution 2337, authorizing the mayor to execute the temporary construction easement between Layton City and Winkle Rock LLC for the permitted access through their development to construct the future section of the Case Creek Trail on adjacent UDOT right-of-way.
Okay.
Any questions?
Okay. Seeing that there's none, I'm glad that you kind of stuttered too, but I think that shows how taxing our day was on Tuesday. But I also want to, before I bring this back to the council, to go ahead and take action on it. I do want to say, council, thank you for being here tonight. And just so Merrill Chef Construction understands, we initially were not going to have a meeting tonight, but we knew how critical these items were and how important they are for our city. So we came here just to make sure we could get this on the books and get you rolling quickly. So with that, I'll bring it back to the council and ask for action on our consent items.
I make a motion that we approve consent items A through E.
Okay. All right, I'll take that tonight. Okay, it's been moved in second. Usually I ask that you state the resolution or the ordinance, but it's okay. I'm good with that tonight. We will make sure that they're in the notes, that it's duly noted. Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we accept the consent items as presented. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you very much. That actually brings our meeting to a conclusion. Unless anybody has any unfinished business at this time, I'll look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay, it's been moved, and I'm going to acknowledge that and want to once again thank everyone for attending our meeting tonight, and a special thanks to the council members and the staff, by the way. Thank you.